Mhm. Hey. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Feed Your Soul with Kim podcast. We have a special episode today that is based on something I did over the summer. And I think we're going to have this as a two-part kind of podcast episode. So today I wanted to talk about personal retreats, what they are, how to make them happen, and to really get into some kind of example. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Feed Your Soul with Kim podcast. Today, we have a special episode where we talk about personal retreats, meaningful reset. That's what we're calling it. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Feed Your Soul with Kim podcast. Today, we are talking about personal retreats and how to have a meaningful reset. I want to start out wondering with you, have you ever had a personal retreat? Have you ever taken one? Have you heard of them? I actually was looking up if there are any other ways to describe them, and there aren't a lot of ways to describe a personal retreat or kind of what to name them. So that's just what I call them. So let's start out with what is a personal retreat. It is something that is personal and it really takes the shape of what you need it to be for yourself. And we're going to go over lots of ideas of what that might look like through the course of this podcast today. And in the second episode, I'm going to actually tell you what happened over the summer when I went on my personal retreat. I actually have, as I've been reflecting on this podcast today, I have had many personal retreats over the years, and I've done them in lots of different ways. And I think you're going to get some great ideas today on what you might do or how you might design it for yourself, because it's really something that you get to design for you. And I think it starts with the wondering why. And right now we are living in a very quick society. Things happen very fast. Everything's going on in a quickened way. That's kind of the best way I can think of to describe it. And there really isn't a lot of space, or we don't make a lot of space for time for ourselves and time for that personal reflection. For myself, I have been putting on my bucket list, my 100 things I really, really, really want to do list for a while has been about taking some time for my personal retreat. I used to do them a lot over the years, and I haven't done it in a while, and I really wanted to. It really seemed that when I got married, had a kid, life took hold, I have my business, taking personal retreats didn't come to the top of the list as often as it used to. I used to take these personal retreats alone, with groups that I paid to be a part of, friend groups where we did it together. Yeah, I've done it in lots of different ways. And I think the starting point is to set an intention that this is what you want to do. That this is kind of the direction you're leaning in, and that you want to have a personal retreat. And this opportunity today is kind of how to design it and how to start thinking it through, because there really are no set ways to do a personal retreat. And I asked, I always love to do dictionary definitions, and there's no dictionary definition of a personal retreat, but I did look up on Google. I said, what is a personal retreat? And Google said, quote, a self retreat is a temporary voluntary withdrawal from everyday life to focus on personal well being, reflection, and renewal, often involving solitude and disconnecting from digital distractions to foster deeper self awareness, spiritual growth, and problem solving. The purpose is to create a dedicated space and time to recharge, gain clarity, and reconnect with oneself, whether through quiet activities at home or a dedicated trip to a comfortable new environment. It's funny when it says comfortable new environment. Sometimes I find it's uncomfortable to go in the start on these personal retreats, and not unsafe, but just uncomfortable because it's so far out of my everyday life. I think it's the starting spot after you, or the point after you decide, I actually really am feeling the call for a personal retreat, is to really look at what are some key components that I find are very powerful in your personal retreat when I've designed my personal retreat. First thing is that it is a time alone. It is a time to be alone, to take space by yourself. I even think when I am on a retreat with a group of friends, or even on a retreat where I'm with a group that is led by some leader, I always make time for my personal reflection and time away from the group. And generally, when it is a retreat kind of setting, that's actually part of the agenda, is that we have time for being alone. I think also what happens that makes it work well is to have purposeful disconnection. It's a space to move off of your devices and off of technology. And I know with our digital access, we can go lots of places and be connected. And I really encourage you to really find this as a time for disconnection from the outer world and disconnection from your device. I think sometimes what we've done is like we actually go places where there is no Wi-Fi. You can't get connected. And so you're kind of at a loss, or actually maybe a win, that you can't be connected. So it's not like you can kind of go, oops, I got connected and I didn't realize it. Just you can't do it. And there are places you can go where there is no Wi-Fi. So that's something to consider, is how to really purposefully disconnect. The next thing that are an idea that's important as part of your personal retreat is intentional activities. And this is, I think, for me, done in advance. Whether I buy a retreat that where somebody else puts it on, the intention that they put together is something that I want to do. Also, if I design my own intentional activities, or I go with a group, we design intentional activities. It's for an opportunity to be playful, to be spiritual, to be quiet, to be reflective, to be active. It's really, what is the intention of the retreat? And then make the activities that match what you want to do. And I have found that being intentional before I even get there is very important, because then I end up bringing the right items. Sometimes I want to bring my tarot cards, and so I'll bring those on retreat. Sometimes my last retreat, I bought a whole bunch of pens and paper for me to draw on. I brought writing utensils and a journal. So when I know in advance what that intention is, the intentional activities, I then can bring the items that I need for my retreat. The other thing to consider is, what kind of setting are you interested in? This is really important part of making sure that that is a part of your one of your key components is, what kind of setting should I be in? What kind of place am I interested in? And I think what first leads me, at least, to what setting I look at is like, where would I like to go? And then also, what are the finances that I have in order to make this happen? Because you can stay at home, you could go to a friend's house, you could go to a local Airbnb, you can go in country, you can go out of country. There are a lot of places you can go. And it first takes deciding in advance, where might that be? And also, what can I afford? I think for me, the two things that help indicate where the setting is going to be is, what are my finances? And also, what kind of time off do I have? What are the things going on at home that I might need to be here for, either my daughter, or something that's scheduled, or my business? There's a lot of things that go on that might make the timing. I have to wrap my timing around what's going on in my life. And sometimes the timing and the setting have to do with where somebody else is putting on the retreat, and deciding whether that works within my lifestyle. Lastly, I think the last thing you need to think about is, what's your mindset and your come from? Like, why am I coming to this? And it can be really helpful to have this sense of curiosity and a go with the flow kind of attitude. You just don't always know what's going to happen. And there can be changing of plans. There can be things that happen. The electricity goes out. The things that you thought were going to be there aren't there. And when you have a sense of curiosity about, I wonder how this is all going to play out, I find that mindset helps bring on more of a gratitude kind of way of being, and it brings more joy because it doesn't have to look, the retreat looks the way it looks. Your personal retreat goes the way it goes. And you can't have control of everything. And so, really having that mindset of, I'm going to go with the flow, I'm going to be curious about what shows up and let that guide you. And I think it will bring more gratitude, but also just more joy in what happens because you're going to find whatever shows up to be absolutely perfect. Next is considering, what is your reason to take a personal retreat? Why are you wanting to do this? This can be really helpful because it can guide you in the direction of what you want to do or what it might look like. So sometimes it's a desire to get away, and that might be what leads you on the retreats. But there's some really bigger reasons I find why I take a retreat and why I've heard others take a retreat. First is you're feeling burnt out and stressed. And it's like, I just want to get away. I remember I've said that. I just want to get away. I just want time to myself. I just need to get away. And there are these overwhelming situations that just keep coming up on us. And when I find that statement, I just want to get away, keeps coming up, probably a time for me to have a retreat and to put something together that might help me move through whatever is feeling really stressful. Another reason why to go on retreat is for self-awareness and personal growth. That I think is often the times that I go when I go to a retreat that is led by somebody else, where a group is putting it on. And then they have more of an agenda. They have ideas that they're teaching. They have um, group activities that they put together, really to increase that level of self-awareness. And I find those are when I'm feeling a little depleted and I just want to understand more about myself and my life and to gain more perspective. So those self-awareness and growth kind of retreats lead you in a different kind of direction than say you might do if you're feeling burnt out. Another direction you might go in is a problem solving kind of retreat, a planning kind of retreat. And this is where you can where you can spend time in reflection, thinking about your larger life goals, your career path, your financial issues, and really put together a problem solving um, kind of retreat. It can be a time to plan out, not necessarily plan out your life, but look forward in your life. I could see something like a vision map being part of this. Uh, Vision planning and mind mapping, I think, are really good on these kind of problem solving retreat. And it can help you in lots of ways. I find those are really helpful at the beginning of the year to look forward into what the year ahead, what we want the next year to look like, and also to look back on what the year past has looked like. So those are good kind of reflections for ending and starting a year. Also, when you're looking at career goals and changing your career path, that could be a super great time to have more of a problem solving kind of personal retreat. And another one, the last one that we have, is a reconnection kind of personal retreat. And that can be a way to reconnect with yourself. I know we could say we could have a reconnection, and I know that we can have retreats that are couples retreats. What we're talking about today is more personal retreats, but these all could be translated into a couple retreat where you have things that are going on between the couple and helping you really achieve that next level in your relationship. But in reconnection, we're talking about reconnecting to ourself, our sense of purpose, our mental and emotional wellness, a sense of joy in our life, and really getting back to the basics about why are we here and what is our purpose in being around. And it can be really purpose driven, and it can be a really fun kind of adventure for a retreat. What I think you will wonder is, well, then how do you do this? If you've never set up your own personal retreat, let's walk through some ideas that you can use to get yourself on a personal retreat. Actually, I'm going to write this all up in a blog and you can get it, and I'll have it listed out all the ideas so that if you want to make your own personal retreat, you have some ideas to start with. Like I said, I have lots and lots of retreats that I've gone on, that I've led, that I've been a part of, and I have lots of ideas about what you could do. So let's talk about how you can start setting up your personal retreat. First is set a date. Just decide when you're going to start doing this. When am I going to go? Because if it's on the calendar, you're going to go. If it's not on the calendar, it's not going to get done. It's going to be something that you just think about. So start by setting a date, and that includes setting, obviously, if it's led by a leader, that would be the dates would be set by the person who's setting the event up. And so they have the dates. And so looking at how long it is, how far is the traveling, and really deciding, is that your best kind of retreat? But you got to put it on the calendar to make it happen. So determining how long is your personal retreat going to be? It could be 1 hour, a couple hours, half a day, full day, many days, a week. It really can be what you want it to be. It can be over a weekend. It can be over weekdays. It can be whatever you want it to be. And start determining what that might look like, because it's really sometimes certain places there are more people if it's over the weekend, and that might not be what you want for your retreat. It might be there's no openings except on certain weekdays. So you determine it by that. So really look at what you're looking for, how many hours, how many days, and that's a great starting point to move from. So set the date. How many days? What are you looking for? Then you have to set the place. Once again, if you're going on a group retreat with a leader, they're going to set the place up. They're going to tell you where you're going to go. But if you're in charge, or you're working with a group of other people to go to a retreat, set up the place in advance. So determine where you want to go. I actually have done a retreat where I didn't know where I was going. It was a little dicey. And it ended up being marvelous, but I really just put my car in gear and left, and I had a general idea of where I'm going, but I didn't really know exactly where I would end up. So set the place, or set the general direction you want to go. And it can be really spontaneous and creative about where you go. And it's really whatever idea you think of and can afford and can take the time off, really look at that and decide, is it going to be in your home? Is it going to be close to home? Are you going to travel? How far away are you going to travel? Would you want it in the mountains? Do you want it by a lake, by the beach, in a city, in a different country? Where might that be? And really determine what that place might look like. And are you going to be in a place where you are with others that are on retreat, or are you going to be in a place where you really want to stay alone? There are lots of different ways to do it, and you can make it any way you need it to be. Are you going to go alone? Are you going to go with others? There's a lot of things that go into that. I find that when I go with others, there's a different type of intentionality than if I go solo, or if I go with a group where I don't know anybody and it's more facilitator led. It's really determining what your end goal is. What do you want to have happen? And then you can kind of create all of this around it. Then you want to think about, what do I want to do on this retreat? Is this an active retreat? Is this a playful retreat? Is this a quiet retreat? Is this somewhere where I'm going to do something, where I'm going to be hiking, where I'm going to be swimming? And what might that schedule kind of look at? I find that it's really important to think in advance on what will you do? What will the retreat look like? Because it could end up where you come away feeling like you didn't accomplish anything because you didn't know what you wanted to accomplish. Once again, if it's a facilitated retreat, they're going to tell you what they're going to do, and also be mindful that they're setting it up to match whatever they've sold you on, whatever they say they're going to do. I do find that when it's a facilitator led retreat, they generally have space for you to have private time by yourself. So it's a personal retreat in a different kind of way where there might be others around, but your intention is really to get in closer with yourself. I've also done it where I've done a personal retreat with a group of friends where we're there to help each other really learn more. It's more of a self-led personal retreat where we're setting up the agenda, setting up tasks, what we want to do. And I have found those to be really great because the things the other people in the group think of as activities for us are things I wouldn't normally think of. And I've really enjoyed that. Also, if you do that with a group, make sure you figure out how the food's going to be done and have that set up in advance because that has to be part of the whole retreat process. What food do we need to have here and how are we going to make that happen? I think there's also an important look at what costs you can have, what costs you can manage. We talked about that earlier in terms of the place that you want to stay, but you really can have a personal retreat that's fee to very, I'm sorry, that is free to very, very low cost to a very high cost personal retreat. It just depends. And there are lots of ways to do this. I think I encourage you actually to move beyond the idea that I can't afford it because it really doesn't have to involve money. And I'm going to talk about this in my next podcast about how I had my personal retreat that was absolutely free. And I went to this marvelous place, and there is a way to make these things happen. There's also a way to do it low cost. I've done retreats where we've camped and it's been outside, really, really low cost. And I've done it where it's high level, where it's a very nice place that we go to and we have a really nice place to stay. There are lots of different ways to do it. It just depends on what you're looking for and what will feel good for you. What will feel good for you. I also think it's important to have a retreat plan. Like, what am I going to do? What is this going to be about? On my last retreat that I went on, I really spent quite a bit of time determining what is it I was going to do for my agenda. And I think it it becomes also important to have some ideas but have flexibility to kind of like determine what do I want to do, what's coming up for me, or what might be the best way I can utilize my time. And I found that I wrote down some ideas about what I've done on solo retreats that I think you can use as a way to manage your own. Also, knowing that depending on what you might want to do means you have to bring the equipment to do it. Um, so some of the things, and then we'll talk about the equipment kind of part of this, is walking or hiking. So where are you going to be? Maybe walking or hiking. I always put in my retreat a time to be physically active in a way that works, to get outside, to walk around, even if it's a retreat led by a facilitator. I've got to get up, I've got to walk around. So walking or hiking, which means I have to bring shoes that are appropriate for where we're going to be. Another one I just did on my last personal retreat is yoga. So I brought my yoga mat with me, and that made me feel really comfortable. And I knew that I could do the yoga that I wanted to do. Another option is meditation. If you have meditation apps that you like to do, download some of that since you might not have Wi-Fi. Download it so you can have some meditations or have something that you might listen to or whatever protocol you have for your meditations, have that available. Another is that I've done on plenty of retreats is writing with prompts or just writing in general. And that can be you come, you go, and you search for writing prompts for a retreat, a personal retreat on self-reflection. If you just Google that or put it in ChatGPT, journal prompts for personal reflection on a retreat, it will come up with a whole bunch of prompts that I suspect will be really good that you can use. It's a great way for you to be in quiet by yourself, but actually having some kind of personal contemplation with the writing prompts. That's a really good one. I actually really enjoy that one. Another thing you can do, and I've done it plenty of times, is do something creative. Do something that is what you have wanted to do but haven't been able to do. Bring your, if you want to, bring some scrapbooking stuff. You can put together books, put together papers, and make handmade books. You can do something creative. Bring stamps to do stamping, or all kinds of crafting, journal, not journaling, but magazines, to cut out magazine pictures to make a vision map. There are lots of things creatively that you can do. If you have a guitar, bring a guitar, play your guitar, sing. Those kind of things are very personal. And for me, it takes thinking about it in advance. So I have it with me. Obviously, if you're flying on a plane far away, that's going to be harder to do. And so when that is part of my plan, I do smaller things that I take with me, because I always like having the options, whether I do them or not. I like having the options with me. Also, something I like to do is bring a book with inspirational readings. I find that that really kind of, even if when I'm on a personal retreat, and it might not be all about self-reflection, that allows me an opportunity to have some personal self-reflection and to really lean into my self-awareness and my personal growth. And that's really one of the big reasons why I go, is I want just more understanding about what's going on for me, and having some inspirational readings, some things that make me think a little bit differently, I find is really good for me. So here are some ideas. I think we've just went through lots of ideas for your personal retreat. What might what I listed here was a bunch of ideas of what your retreat could look like, and kind of what you might wrap around your retreat to make it really meaningful and valuable to you, because there's no sense in going away if it's not meaningful and has value for you. One is a restful retreat, and that can be things like rest, deep sleep, having physical activities, and then sleeping really well at night, going to a place that's really quiet. And the rest can be sleeping, napping, jacuzzi, sauna, massage, reading, doing things that feel more restful. And that can be really good to really do that, and also maybe engage in more quiet time. That can be really helpful for a restful retreat. Another type of retreat is a reflective and empowering kind of retreat. These can be where you journal, where you do those journal prompts that we were just talking about, where you do something physically active, and as you're doing it, you can write about what's going on or reflect on what this activity means for you. Lots of things you can do. Another idea is a creative and playful kind of personal retreat, where you do an art journal, where you do creative activities, and you just do something that's really playful. I think that's really a lost art these days. We tend to be on our phones and using devices, and there can be a time for this really meaningful play. And that and it doesn't have to have any kind of output where you have an art project that you show, or that you have something that's showing. I've been on retreats where they have lots of art set up, where it's self-led, but also there's a facilitator who sets up the retreat, and we could go from station to station and just be creative in a way that serves us, really in a childlike kind of way, which I think we all could use more of. I know I could use more of. Let me put it, I'll own it. That having that more playful experience can be very, very valuable. Another one that I've done plenty of time is a spiritual and meaningful retreat. It can be where you go to a place that is more of a spiritual spot, where it's more of a power spot, which I've done plenty of times. And you kind of really feel the power of the place, of the people that have been there. It might be a place where there's a lot of prayer. It might be a place where there's a lot of meditation, where there's a lot of chanting, things that go on that are more spiritually minded. And it's also, it can be a place where there are people. I've been to personal retreats where there are people that live there that are in spiritual community, and they allow us to partake in their spiritual gatherings. And that, oh my gosh, that has just been such a wonder. It's been wonderful for me to feel like I can be a part of these communities, that they allow us to participate and to sit in on something that's very meaningful and personal to them. Um, Over the years, I have done a lot of retreats. I think you kind of gather that as we've been talking. And I just never thought to talk about it. I don't hear people talk too much about going on personal retreat, and I think it's high time that we start talking about it. So here are some of the many retreats I've been on. Oh my goodness. And I probably, if I think about it though, there are many more. I've been solo retreat that's local, and I've been on a solo retreat that's been further away. It just depends on finances, the amount of time I can go, and really what I want my outcome to be. I've also had girlfriend group retreats where it's literally a retreat. It's not a gathering to have a party and things. It's really where we are going into meaningful activities, and really a meaningful, soulful time together. We stay at an Airbnb. We have planned activities for reflection and personal growth. We have time for um, being away and doing things by ourselves. It's really a time where we come away with really feeling really uplifted from these retreats. I've also been at spiritual gathering at retreats where it's a personal retreat at a spiritual center. And that I'm actually going to do one of those. I'm going to go on one in November. So that's coming up actually very quickly for me. It is something I love to do because you're in this spiritual community with people that live there, and we're on retreat there. It's amazing. And the gardens and the whole place is filled with these people that have been there before. And so spiritual gatherings for personal retreats is so good, so good. I've also been to spiritual retreats or personal retreats. Then they do end up being spiritual. I think always they end up for me being spiritual, but where we gather and it's a whole bunch of people, where we stay in different cabins and we gather for learning opportunities and creativity and music. But it's really a time for personal reflection. And the coming together gets us more into our personal reflection. That was something that's been really wonderful to go to. And I remember I would have personal retreats with the girlfriend where we both go meet up, we'd camp and spend time in this healing center, go to the hot springs, go to the learning lessons, take hikes, and really do a lot of personal reflection on this lovely property. And that was a more affordable kind of place because we were camping there and taking advantage of the facilities that were all over the campus. I think if you listen this far, you're wondering whether you might want to go on a personal retreat. And so I really invite you to really take that reflection and look inside and go, is it my time, my turn for a personal retreat? And I encourage you to start setting it up. If you're thinking about it, set up an hour-long retreat where you go out into a local park and you sit and take some deep breaths and walk around and spend the hour being quiet. Turn off your phone. There's a lot of ways to do it, and I encourage you to just do it. Just start where you are. Start with something that's affordable. Start with something that you can do, and really look in at the wins that you get from doing this. It is a large growth spurt that can happen right after. And like I said, in our next podcast, I'm going to talk about my most recent personal retreat and some of my reflections from it. I think can help encourage you to make your own personal retreat. So If you're thinking about it, just do it. I am so glad you listened to this. I'm so glad we got to talk about personal retreats. Put a note, send me a note, send me an email, respond in the comments, and let us know what you're doing because I love to know how other people are doing their personal retreats and what ideas you have because I can always use more ideas on what kind of retreats to go on. Thank you so much for listening. This is Kim McLaughlin from the Feed Your Soul with Kim podcast. I look forward to talking with you real soon. Bye.